challenge areas is the user interface. And one of the big advantages that you hear about the Vision Pro is the eye tracking and the ability to just have this free-form user interface. I think that we'll find that it is a low percent complete, 20%, 30%. There is a long way to go, and there is a lot of opportunity to improve the user interface for spatial computing. And as I had pointed out earlier, spatial computing isn't limited to just a headset experience. The world in which I work regularly is an immersive dome where you're not wearing a headset. So it's a virtual environment where I am completely unencumbered, but I still need to interact with my virtual environment. And so tracking of devices and knowing where things are in 3D space, there's a lot of opportunity left there for improvement. And I think that's one of the challenge areas that is going to hold things back.
That's a great point. When you were talking, I couldn't help but think about the human level, and I would say one of the bigger challenges that I've come across is generational. You know, we're all used to being on our cell phones all the time. I mean, has anyone in here ever helped their parents with something on a computer? So if you're trying to all of a sudden have someone jump into a different AR or VR app, there's a lot of resistance there. So I feel like socializing and understanding the technologies and understanding who you're talking to at a very personal level makes a big difference. You know, if you come in, you know, I'm thinking through the lens of you're all about to be in the workforce. You come into a mature organization and you may have the best innovation idea imaginable, and you go and talk to a senior exec and you just get shot down instantly, and there's no progress in the conversation. Understanding that you're talking to a human that has a different level of understanding, not just of their business, but also of technology as a whole, will be really helpful to keep in mind as you do start to try advancing your own initiatives in different companies as you find yourselves going down those paths.
There's one quick comment about this user interface thing. Has anybody in the room heard of the company called Humane? The PIN, a couple of people. So there's a couple of people spun out of Apple, and they started a company called Humane. And I recommend, if you're inquisitive, just take a moment to go look at the YouTube video launch of what this is. They launched it about 2 months ago, and it's an AI pin that you wear. And the challenge that these folks have is they're trying to completely reinvent a user interface to AI through this little device that's no bigger than a matchbox that you wear here. It has a projector built into it. You hold your hand out, and your user interface shows up on your hand. And then you can do all the Apple kinds of stuff with your fingers to trigger actions. What a challenge as a UI experiment to try and take spatial computing into the daily work, in the daily life of a person. You gotta just stop and think about that for a minute and just see what you can get your head around in terms of, wow, you know, how all of AI is available to me through this little thing that I'm wearing and an interface that will do whatever I tell it to. No cell phone, no laptop, no iPad. Just a thought.
It's a good thought. There's another challenge I just thought of while you were talking again, and it's how fast all of this is moving. You know, a lot of you have probably been fortunate to encounter a lot of these devices and spend a lot of time in technology. I remember 6, 7 years ago, we were snapping phones into Galaxy VRs where the resolution lacked. We can just say that. I remember when the first Quest came along from Oculus. I mean, it changed everything. All of a sudden, we had a piece of hardware that we could sell to an organization. I mean, you know, a lot of these companies, massive enterprise organizations, are like, well, how the heck do I scale a bunch of $1,000 Samsung Galaxies and like $50 plastic headsets and cardboards? I mean, it was clunky at best. But yeah, when you see this spatial computing continuum, you know, Drew mentioned that it's been moving for 40+ years, and if we change how we look at it, but all the real progress has happened in the last few years. I mean, I don't know if you follow on LinkedIn, there's been a number of different tipping point conversations happening. As fast as things have moved in the last 5 years with the advancements in generative AI, we're looking at making 100 years of equivalent progress in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, the exponential nature of all of these models and all these technologies, if you have an opportunity now and you're interested at all in developing a technical skill set or a strategic skill set and you want to change the world, you have no better time than to do that right now.
Adam, I want to bookend some examples for you on fast and slow. 5 months ago or so, Adam and I and some of us were having a panel discussion like this, and I said, has anybody here ever heard of a thing called a NERF? Which is an NERF. And a few people put their hands up, but mostly everybody's like, what's a NERF? And a NERF is a new way of doing a neural radiance field, which is it's a new form of photogrammetry. Anyway, it's a new technology. That was 5 months ago. Well, that's already been eclipsed now by a G-SLAB, which is a totally new thing and a totally new way of capturing data. That's moving fast. By contrast, recently I've been getting Instagram feed advertisements for this really cool camera that swings down in front of your monitor so that you get better eye contact when you're doing a video conference. And I have to laugh because, yes, 40 years ago, I founded a company that went on to become the leading company in the video conferencing market space 40 years ago this year. I am older than I look. But it is just hysterical that we have innovations in video conferencing that are showing up 40 years after we got that market going. So some things move at glacially slow pace, even though at the time you think it's frenetic and moving at the speed of light. You guys would think, oh, Zoom, video conferencing started with Zoom. Well, the company we started in 1984 was already 30+ years old by the time Zoom was ever even thought of. So, long histories and all this stuff. Onward.
I'm gonna just bring it a little bit back to home with kind of like contrasting what you said about, the change. I know where you're sitting right now as a student. You're looking at, what do I do? Everything changes. If I build something today, tomorrow it's obsolete. I bet you guys are struggling that when you build in one version of Unity, tomorrow you build again and it's broken. It happens to all. Don't worry, you're not alone there. When you are actually engineering a solution, tomorrow there's somebody out there on GitHub putting that and more, right? And you feel like you don't go fast enough as the technology is going fast. Good advice from where I'm sitting is that the majority of times we want to build things without thinking about how to build a community around what I'm building. The fastest path to get to success is by community thinking. You are thinking about building a game, you're thinking about building a solution, or learning a new skill, right? You're used to read it from a book or read it from an iPad now and try to replicate it instead of kind of like socialize it. If you have an idea, assemble a team. If you have an idea, try to go faster with more hands. If you think that something's brilliant and you have an assignment, right? Go to your professor and tell them, let's do it together. Let's open a GitHub repository. Let's open a Discord. Let's make it a big deal. So that is the only way you can maintain the pace of the technology and succeeding in your ideas. I remember back in the day we did not have those tools, and we tried to conquer the world one person at a time, and that's why with these new tools people are going super fast. If you just think about the evolution of AI, let's talk about just single thing, Stable Diffusion, right? How that actually has moved from a single experiment into a multi-billion-dollar company, right? But it's with the effort of the open source community, with hundreds and hundreds of people working on something that seems to work, right? And where you're talking about your own idea, it's this is more a personal thing. When I have a great idea and it's built by many, your level of satisfaction is greater and your success has more chances to go far, right? So if you have a great idea, socialize it, communicate it, and build an army. And around that, you'll be able to keep up the pace of technology, how it moves. Let the big guys put the big money and move a headset from $3,000 to $100. That's not where you really need to think about. You just need to think about the solution, how impactful is your solution, and build a community around it to go fast. MVP, prototype, put it out there, get it to the people's hands, and then get back, reiterate, and do it again, right? So that's what I would think. That's how you keep up with this madness.
I was gonna ask, how important is collaboration within the VR and AR industry?
I said it.
Yeah. It's also important to, when you're building out some of these solutions, a lot of us have an idea of what we want to do, right? Like we pose a problem in a solution and we go to fix it. It's important to keep in mind what the end looks like. Like you may have an idea, you may have a solution that you want to do, but what is that going to evolve into? That's the thing that you want to build towards together. There's times where a single solution is the answer, but if you're talking about going to an organization and you're looking to differentiate yourself as a human asset in that company, how are you going to create residual value? So just another thing to keep in mind. So this seems like a good lead into Gus. Can you discuss the role of AR and VR in transforming education and professional training, and what successes have you observed?
Sure. Well, there are so many different use cases for training that the most impressive one is related to military training, related to the lives and the resources they save, because it's imperative for the security of the nation and also for optimization of resources to work with that technology. So in that scenario, it's incredibly impactful. And also health related projects. It's making possible to have remote practitioners doing analysis or doing paying attention to somebody that is needing a solution, and that is a life-saving situation for thousands and thousands of users. So that's one of the things that I really like more.
Very nice. Any additions there, Drew or Ricardo?
It might be good to just touch on this medical example real quick that I had referred to earlier. One of the partners that we work with uses a mixed reality environment to create a stressful healthcare situation. So you're in the battlefield, you have a patient in front of you, you need to apply a tourniquet, let's say. However, while you're faced with this patient who is bleeding out, you're under attack. So on the one hand, you have your rifle, on the other hand, you have your tourniquet. The training exercise has the ability to manage the state of the patient. So you're monitoring the blood pressure and the heart rate of the patient. Meanwhile, we're monitoring your blood pressure and your heart rate and deciding how stressed are you? Can you make good decisions while you're under fire? So literally, the training scenario, you've got all this noise, the helicopters are coming in, the enemy is coming down the hill, and you literally have to pick up your gun, shoot at the bad guys, put your gun down, apply the tourniquet, and carry on. And all of that is this incredibly lifelike, very real training scenario that, having done the exercise, not being a medic, I was terrified, and it was very compelling. And so just to leave you with the thought that there is so many opportunities and so much upside, development opportunity and benefit to improve performance across a wide range of applications. That just happens to be one that's a really compelling story.
Yeah, it's fascinating the medical and military implications for all of these.